So if you're a startup founder, you know that first funding round is a massive deal. And what's the go-to tool for almost everyone? The convertible note. It's pitched as this fast, simple way to get cash in the door, and just kick that tricky valuation debate down the road. But is it really that simple? Let's take a much closer look.
And that's exactly the appeal, right? You're trying to build a product, find customers, hire a team. A fundraising shortcut sounds like an absolute lifesaver. You just get the money now and figure out all the hard parts later. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Well, here's the catch. That later can come with a really steep price. See, the terms that actually define your ownership and your control, they're often hiding in plain sight, just disguised as these harmless-looking legal clauses. And you don't notice them until the moment those notes turn into shares.
Okay, so let's start with the most direct cost. The quiet, sneaky ways a convertible note can eat into your equity, often a whole lot more than you ever planned for.
Every single convertible note has an interest rate. But here's what so many founders miss. You don't actually pay this interest back in cash. Nope. It just quietly builds up, and then it converts right alongside the original investment, giving the investor even more shares of your company. It's a silent, creeping kind of dilution.
And just look at how fast this adds up. On a $1 million note, a pretty standard 6% interest rate means an extra $60,000 converts into equity for your investor. And that's after just 1 year. Now, it might not sound like a ton, but spread that across a few different notes and a couple of years, and you can literally watch your own stake in the company quietly shrink.
Okay, now this is where the math gets really, really tricky. When you're in a rush to raise money, you might end up issuing notes at different times with totally different terms. So what happens when you have a whole mix of valuation caps on your cap table, that document that's supposed to track who owns what? This is such a classic scenario. So a founder raises from two angels. Angel 1 gets a really low $3 million cap. Angel 2 gets a slightly higher $5 million cap. The founder's thinking, okay, they'll both convert to a pretty similar small stake. But then a new VC comes in and invests at a $10 million valuation. And boom, suddenly that super low cap for Angel 1 means their note converts into a much, much bigger piece of the company. We're talking a full 5% instead of the 2% the founder was planning for. So not only are you way more diluted than you expected, but your new VC, they might not be too happy about that early investor getting such a sweetheart deal.
But it's not just about the math. Certain terms in a convertible note act as these hidden levers, and they give investors control at really critical moments. Let's look at how they actually work.
The maturity date is a perfect example. Most founders, they see it as this kind of soft target, right? Just a suggestion for when they should probably raise their next round. But in the eyes of the law, and more importantly, your investor, it is a hard deadline. If you blow past that date without raising a priced round, your note can legally become debt that is due for repayment right now.
And this is exactly how that lever gets pulled against you. Imagine you raise $500,000, but 18 months go by and you still haven't closed that next round of funding. All of a sudden, your investor has a choice. They can either demand their money back, or they can force the note to convert on terms that are probably not going to be great for you. You're basically backed into a corner, forced into this really weak negotiating position where you might have to give up way more equity just to avoid defaulting on the note.
And it's a similar deal with conversion triggers. You have to watch these like a hawk. It's not just about a priced round. A note could be triggered to convert if the company gets sold, if there's a merger, or even just on a specific calendar date. If these triggers are too sensitive, you could find your note holders suddenly becoming shareholders way earlier than you ever intended, diluting your control before you're even ready.
All right, let's talk about the part everyone loves to just gloss over, the legal jargon. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. These are not just formalities. You should think of them as the secret weapons hidden in the fine print.
A huge one is pro rata rights. Now, this gives an investor the right to put more money into your future funding rounds so they can maintain their ownership percentage. It sounds totally fair, right? But imagine you have multiple early investors who all decide to exercise this right. They can effectively crowd out your next round, taking up all the available space. And that leaves less room for that new strategic VC you really wanted to bring on board. And it can lead to even more dilution for you and your team.
And that is the absolute key takeaway here. This legal language isn't just stuff you copy and paste from a template. Every single phrase is in there for a reason, and a few small words can dramatically shift the balance of power and the financial outcome for you and your company.
I mean, just look at some of these phrases. A qualified financing clause could mean your note won't even convert unless you raise a specific, maybe even huge amount of money. A change of control clause? That might give your note holders a preferential payout if you get acquired. And a most favored nation clause? Oh, that one lets an early investor claim the best terms you give to any future investor? These are not just words. They are tools with very real financial teeth.
So after all these warnings, what do you actually do? How do you protect yourself? It's not about avoiding convertible notes entirely, but it is about raising money with your eyes wide open.
So here it is. Here's the playbook. Number 1, read everything. Don't just skim the big numbers like the valuation cap and the interest rate. The real risk is always buried in the brackets and the footnotes. Number 2, model it out. Build a simple spreadsheet. See what your ownership actually looks like after conversion, in a best case, worst case, and just a likely scenario. And third, and this is crucial, get perspective. You are not expected to be a legal expert. Talk to other founders, talk to advisors, and definitely get a good startup lawyer. Because at the end of the day, all of this, it comes down to one thing, your equity. And it's not just some number that might mean a payout someday. It is the fuel for your journey. It represents your control over the vision, your leverage in every negotiation, and your ability to attract the talent you need to actually win.
So as you get ready to sign that next term sheet, the question you need to be asking isn't just how much money can I raise? It's what am I truly giving up? Because the details you finalize today will absolutely determine whose vision you're ultimately building tomorrow.